Cash is king, they say, but when that cash attracts hoods to your home, it's no longer your friend. It becomes a life and death struggle. Stop the Threat starts now. Hello and welcome to Stop the Threat. My name is James Towle. On this week's episode, we take you to South Carolina for a reenactment which we have entitled Followed Money. Let me ask you this question. How many times have you paid cash thinking it was the smartest thing to do? But before you answer that question, let me introduce you to this week's panel. Wes Doss, president of Kyber Interactive Associates. Tim Shepard, licensed attorney, also served as Port Security, Tech 3, U.S. Coast Guard. Thank you, sir. And Dianna Muller, retired Tulsa Police, certified instructor, professional three-gun competitor, and captain of the Benelli team. Okay, let's see here. I want to start with an email, actually, that I think that we'll all find a little bit interesting before we go into that question. And I'm going to read, this is from Alan, and Alan is from Illinois. I really like your show, Mr. Towle. I have just one question. I've been watching the various scenarios and really learned from the comments. My question is, can you report on the legal outcome of incidents as they happen? Yes, sir, we can. Let me just explain this because I get this a lot. We have a film crew that is very fast and a judicial system which is very slow. So in order for you to see what you see on the show, then we bring it to you. We may not have the outcome. However, in seasons coming, we're working on that, and we'll try to give you the outcome as soon as we can. I have another quick email before we start this. My name is Noah. I've started watching your show. What I like most is the guests that you have, but I have a problem. Why would I want to let criminals go? Okay, what he's referring to here is that rather than to try to keep or a bad guy in place for law enforcement to arrive, he's saying, why would I want to let them go? Why shouldn't I keep them for law enforcement? I think some of these answers are going to be obvious, and I can see you're about to tell me one.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, your responsibility begins and ends with your personal safety and the safety of your loved ones, not with pursuing criminals.
You're not a cop.
Stick to your priorities. Take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and then let the situation play out, at some other time with somebody else.
Okay, Dianna, tell me.
Well, I completely concur with what Wes said, but I'm also a former cop, and I think if I weren't a cop, I would still want to catch the bad guys. So you take on a little bit more risk when you pursue anything or really try to catch them. So that's the risk that you weigh, and that's why we talk about things on this show, is that you can determine what you're willing to take responsibility for.
Right. No, and I believe that, and I think what he's getting at here is that he wants to keep the bad guy in place until law enforcement arrives. So in other words, he's going to hold him at gunpoint or do something else because he's not comfortable with letting him go. And all I'm saying is I'm agreeing with Wes, and I also want to add to the fact that you think you can keep him in place, but what if he decides he's going to walk away? Are you going to shoot him?
More importantly, legally, there's a very fine distinction between kidnapping and lawful detention. And that's not a line that the layman should try to cross.
Okay, and I think that's a good point. We come back, though, I'm going to show you part one of Followed Money. I think we're going to learn something today, and we have all made the same mistake, so don't go away. Thanks for coming back, viewers. I'm going to show you part one of Followed Money. You're going to like this, and you're going to find yourself in this position, or at least part of it. Let's watch part one.
Hey, $50 on pump one.
Cash or credit?
I'm gonna go cash. Here's your change. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Honey, go inside. Can I help you?
Hey man, I'm a little lost. Can you help?
Yeah, where are you headed?
I've got the address right here in a text message. Let me show you. Give me everything you have or I'll shoot you.
Okay, every single one of us has gone into a store and pulled out cash and analyzed, well, shall I pay cash? Shall I put it on the credit card? And I think in most cases we'll put it on the credit card if it's a large amount maybe. If it's a small amount, you'll start going through there trying to find bills. Who's watching? Any bad guy who's interested? How about that one? Want to go with something?
Yeah, again, this all boils down to just not being real aware of what's going on around you and just kind of taking the situation for granted.
Okay, Diana?
And it doesn't necessarily have to be at a convenience store. If, for instance, I don't carry any cash, period. Mine, if it's $1, it's on a credit card, and my husband can attest to that. But it could be ATMs. They're watching ATMs. We've got a lot of casinos in Oklahoma, so we see this happen a lot. People following people away from casinos and ATMs. So if this is you, if this could happen to you, then you'll definitely learn something from what we find out today.
Okay, Tim?
I would just think that he would have been better served to get his family in the house and speak with these people through the door.
Yeah, you know, I like that. I agree with everything we said about the money part. I have to think that at night and you're going home, you may not notice someone following you. Maybe that, I mean, car lights are car lights. Okay, so maybe you didn't, you know, see that someone was following you, but you get out of your vehicle, you start moving to the front of the house, and suddenly a car pulls up with multiple people and one of them gets out of the car. Is there anything in that scenario that makes you feel comfortable?
No.
Why would you address the guy? I mean, if you're going to address the guy, wouldn't you keep moving? Move towards the house.
I think we have a human factor. When somebody engages us and they don't appear threatening, that we don't want to offend them by immediately coming out and say, I don't know you, get away from me. So we do that. We don't listen to that little fear bell that might be going off, and we want to give them the benefit of the doubt. So he fell victim to that, and we're all susceptible to it.
He did seem a little stern about it. I was happy with that. But again, you're addressing, here's a car pulls up, boom, in front of you in the middle of the night or sometime during the evening, and the guy jumps out of the car. I want to agree with you, Diana. I want to say that, yes, it's pretty natural to try to address that person. But again, I think you should be thinking about, why is he doing this at night? Why is he asking me in the middle of a neighborhood where to go? I mean, my first answer might be, hey, you know what, there's a convenience store right up there. Why don't you go up and ask them? But correct, it's a human thing. It's going to happen. I think what we're trying to say here is that you just need to be more alert as to what's going to take place when strangers approach you. Anybody want to add to that?
I would just say that while he's on his own property and he's feeling secure, but he's still in an exposed position, and he doesn't know what the people in the car are going to do. A better choice would be, well, the better part of valor is discretion, so a strategic retreat to a fortified area and talk through the door.
Okay, and again, I'm going to go back to something you've heard me say way too many times, voice intimidation. You don't have to approach me with this. Stay where you are. Where are you going? Oh, you haven't even, stay where you are, stay off my property. I mean, some control factor.
I can add to that because when law enforcement officers engage people, you have to kind of control the situation. And if I just simply ask you to stop and you don't stop, that should be a red flag. If I ask you to sit down and you don't sit down, that's another red flag. You ask people to do simple things that aren't bad or aren't hard
And
to
they're not
do,
responding.
and they're not responding. That
There's
should
a
be,
flag.
and that's something that even citizens can do when they get approached by people. They, stop right there. If they don't stop, that should be the little red flag saying, I need to start doing something more. Maybe move into inside the house.
Right, absolutely right. When we come back, I'll show you more and we'll talk about it some more. Don't go away. Thanks for coming back, viewers. We're looking at followed money. We've learned a few things. We've discovered that probably most of us will open our billfold or our purse, whatever the case may be, and maybe we're doing that not really conscious that people may be looking at us. Certainly if you live in a large metropolis or very populated area, I think it's probably very common that people, I mean, even innocent people look over when you pull your billfold out. So the bad guys are certainly going to look over. They were being a little secretive about it. I probably would have, had I been the owner of that convenience store, maybe I would have paid attention to who are these two guys and what do they want. But that didn't happen. These are real events, just like we see them, just like they've been reported, and that's the way we deliver them to you. So these things do happen. We want to caution you, like Dianna said, she doesn't use cash on anything. There's a point, I know that we've all probably stood in line somewhere waiting for Dianna to pay for a 35-cent item while she's running a credit card, and and it's a little irritating. But on the other hand, they don't follow her home, right?
True.
So it works out,
True.
right? All right, so let's watch part 2. Let's see what develops.
Give me everything you have, or I'll shoot you.
Call the police.
Okay, some good things, some bad things. You want to start?
That's an odd little judgment call to launch into some sort of action like that. I can't say yes and I can't say no because that's really a judgment call. If you're going to do something like that, obviously that's got to be a set of circumstances where you don't hesitate one bit. And once you commit, you need to commit 100% into that scenario, not expect it to be like a primetime television show where you're going to be able to deflect that weapon or subdue this guy that easily. So I think that it wasn't wrong, but it wasn't pretty either.
Now, I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm just going to say, and I'm going to look right into the camera, and I'm going to tell you, unless you're the Karate Kid, if there's a guy with a gun in your face, give him the money and let law enforcement do the job. Okay, I know I'm going to get emails. I know you're going to say, no, I don't want to let the bad guy go. I know, send them, okay? I'm happy to discuss that with you. But if somebody's standing there with a gun in your face and you pull some heroic Karate Kid move, it may not work. And unless you go down to the gym and have a black belt, this is not what you want to do. I'm not going to recommend that. Are you going to recommend that?
Absolutely not. The skill it takes to successfully disarm someone, even law enforcement, with all the training and all the resources at their disposal, still get killed with their own gun. Another thing is, I don't feel like his shooting was justified. The reason is the danger had passed. And another thing, we're in a neighborhood. Okay, what is Rule 4 of the 4 cardinal rules? Beware of your backstop. He probably just discharged a weapon into his neighbor's house. And I just really have problems with it.
Okay. Dianna, you want to go with something?
Yeah, one of the first things I noticed that when you could see the wheels turning in his head, And I felt like he really gave away what he was going to do if that's exactly how it played out. You know, he was making a decision to go ahead and fight, and you could see it all over his face. So don't give away your plan if that is in fact what you're going to do, if that's your choice. You kind of lose the element of surprise. But I always tell myself that if there's one gun present, that I want it to be mine. But in this scenario, there's more than one bad guy. If it's just me and one bad guy, then I'm going to turn into the Tasmanian devil, and I'm going to try to get his gun. So in this scenario, I don't necessarily think that I would do that, but that's something to think about if you're one-on-one, to turn into the Karate Kid.
I'm not really in favor of that whatsoever, and I'm thinking about what Tim said about shooting, and we hadn't probably thought that is a neighborhood. I can tell you that from the reports that we have, the individual here, the homeowner, was a hot-tempered guy. I guess he'd been called out before, and he's displayed some sort of a temper. So nobody was surprised at what he did. I'm just not going to endorse that whatsoever. And I think the legal point on this was really clear.
Absolutely.
Danger has now left the scene.
And you are under an absolute duty to de-escalate once they've left. If you continue to escalate, you're doing so at your own legal peril, both criminally and civilly.
Okay, I guess it's not unheard of that the bad guy could have drove away, picked up the phone, called 911, and said, hey, some guy was shooting at me as I was driving through the neighborhood. What would happen?
The best that this guy could expect would be to spend the night in jail and give 10% of whatever the judge sets his bond at to a bondsman who's probably not going to give it back.
Chances are these are the bad guys, they're not going to do that. But I mean, I want to reinforce the fact that calling 911 as soon as possible, though, and I think the homeowner should have done that, called 911, or the wife should have done it, or the son. As we understand it, they were all pretty scared, standing on the stoop there watching what was taking place, so there was no one rushing out to help Dad, because they were pretty scared. But calling 911 is important, and the first person to call has a presumption of innocence, correct?
Absolutely, and plus, he would have made so much better witness if he had de-escalated.
Okay, we got to run. When we come back, though, we will finish this up. I think we have a few more things we'd like to add to it, and I'll give you a little follow-up, so don't go away. Thanks for coming back, viewers. We've seen a very interesting reenactment, certainly a reenactment that could happen to some of us. I think we have probably, and I'm going to use the word ruled on what not to do, and I think he probably broke a lot of those rules in there. I'll bet you're interested in the follow-up. I know you are. So I'm going to give it to you. And this may not surprise you. Robber's gun was reported stolen 3 years earlier. Okay, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised at that. At this time, no suspects or vehicle has been recovered. Husband was not seriously injured. I think that's probably the follow-up that we're working with here. It's unfortunate that it happens that way, but you know what? Sometimes it happens. Sometimes the bad guys get away, right?
They do.
They do, okay. And it's not your responsibility to become law enforcement. It's not your responsibility to try to hold them or somehow or another keep them in place for law enforcement. I think what the most important thing is we may have learned there was get on the phone to 911.
Yes.
What else?
Beware your backstop.
Yeah, don't be shooting off firearms in the neighborhood, even though you think you have the right to do that. I don't think you do.
No, you don't.
Right?
You
so
don't.
when that comes to court, what are we looking at there? If it comes to court, would it come to court?
Yeah, criminally, it would be a stretch.
Okay, the neighbor across the street, okay?
Civilly,
bullet comes through the window. They're going to be a little upset about that. So they call and they say, hey, somebody just shot out my window.
And you're looking at a civil suit that could potentially bankrupt you. If you were found civilly liable in a wrongful death, I know under Alabama law, your punitive damages are unlimited, which means that the victim's family will probably get everything you have and then some.
Well, I think there's a lot to be learned there. Anybody else want to add to that?
Maybe just know that your continuation of force. It's your continuum of force. So if you're going to apply force, there's a point at which you need to de-escalate and understand that. And understand that you can become the aggressor if you continue to push.
You know, I just had a wild thought here, and I'm just going to throw this on the table. Do you think some of the people who are sending me emails saying that, you know, we should probably try to keep them for law enforcement, do you think they're trying to impress law enforcement by having the bad guy?
Absolutely not.
No, I think there's a certain amount of fulfillment thinking that you've caught the guy,
Yeah,
you brought the
right.
situation to conclusion. But again, you know, and to capitalize on the point she made is that's one thing that does separate on the civilian side versus the LE side is that you learn where that level of compliance is attained at, or it's taught. So you know when to de-escalate, when you know to scale things back. If without that, you continue to escalate, you continue to get heavier and heavier in the set of circumstances, you're putting yourself at a greater liability risk.
Okay, all right, and anybody want to add to that?
Well, just the civil liability alone involved in detaining someone, again, you could find yourself bankrupted even though you thought you were doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I think that's a surprise to a lot of the folks. We've got to go, and I want to leave you with a quote from the great Ohio coach, Lou Holtz. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% on how you respond to it. See you again next week. Be safe, be trained, be alert.